Evening, everybody. Um, I'm reporting live from the Heath tonight. I don't know where Lear is, but I got the Fool with me. Say hi, Daniel.
Hello.
We decided we're going to camp tonight, so you guys are just going to get a rough cut. I'm not going to be able to produce this into the high quality videos you're used to. But anyways, today you're going to be continuing on with your study of King Lear, looking at the second half of the play. So where we left off yesterday, Lear had gone crazy because he was betrayed by his two daughters, and he had kicked his third daughter out of the country, Cordelia, but she's coming back into the play here soon. We're going to pick things up. Pretty much, it's just the continuation of Lear going deeper and deeper into madness. Eventually, what's going to happen is he's going to meet up with Edgar, who you'll remember is Gloucester's legitimate son, and Gloucester thinks that Edgar is trying to overthrow him, and that Edmund is the good and loyal son who brought everything to his attention. Of course, Gloucester is right now he's figuratively blind. He's about to become literally blind, though. So Lear's going to meet up with Edgar, who's pretending to be a crazy guy himself named Poor Tom, and Gloucester has been actually his castle has been taken over by Goneril and Regan because he wanted to go off and help Lear, and he chastised them for betraying their father. So they, as punishment, they take over his castle, and they say that they're going to punish him further if he does anything to help Lear. So I think the reason why this is in the play is because if we had any misgivings about Goneril and Regan, they get dealt with here. So you might have thought that, well, Goneril and Regan aren't necessarily that bad. You know, they're like, who could put up with a father who's freeloading off them the way that Lear wants to? But we're going to see that no, they're just really awful people. So they tell Gloucester if he does a thing to help Lear, he'll be punished, and Gloucester decides to disobey them, and he confides in Edmund. He also somebody sent him a letter that talks about this French invasion that's always in the background, and remember that if you support another country when they're trying to invade your country, that's treason, and in most countries the offense for that is the death penalty. So he confides in Edmund that he's going to go off to help Lear, and he tells Edmund about the letter. And as soon as he leaves, Edmund takes this information directly to Cornwall, who is the husband of Regan. And when Cornwall finds out about it, of course, he wants to reward Edmund for his loyalty and his service. So he strips Gloucester of his title of Duke and he gives it to Edmund. So now Edmund, who at the beginning of the play was the illegitimate son, and not having like few prospects in life. He's not going to inherit any land. He's never going to have a title. Gloucester actually is planning to send him away pretty soon. He's been sent away for a while. He's just back for a little visit. He's going to send him back away. Now he is a duke, which is a very high-ranking nobleman, right? And he's got all of Gloucester's lands and everything now too. So things are going very good for Edmund, not going to go very good for Gloucester, because Gloucester does indeed go out and he finds Lear out in the heath, and he and Kent are trying to bring him back to civilization. And when they return, though, when Gloucester returns to his castle, he is in for a pretty nasty surprise. So that right at the very end of Act 3, which remember, Act 3 is where a Shakespearean tragedy climaxes, right at the very end of that act, in the seventh scene, Gloucester is tied to a chair, and Cornwall gouges his eyes out as punishment for his treason. And the reason why he does this is because he's a pretty awful guy too. But Goneril and Regan are egging him on, and actually, when he gouges out the first eye, and he's doing this by hand, it's very gruesome. When he gouges the first one, I can't remember which sister it is, but I think it's Goneril says, one side mocks the other. It's like, put both of his eyes out. Like, now, Gloucester's got this one servant who's an unnamed servant. His only role in the play is this. He jumps in and he attacks Cornwall because he's defending his master, and he wounds Cornwall, and then Regan stabs him in the back because that's the type of person she is. I mean, she's defending her husband too, so you can't blame her too much, but it's important that Cornwall gets hurt. As we go into Act 4, Goneril and Regan both have the hots for Edmund. Now, he describes himself early on in the play as being, when he's talking about, why do I have to have this low life, he talks about himself as being smart and being handsome. So he's a pretty handsome guy, and Goneril and Regan are both kind of falling for him. Now, problem is, both of them are married, right? Goneril, it's very clear that she doesn't like her husband at all. When Duke of Albany, Goneril's husband, finds out what they've done to Gloucester, he actually loses it, and he has a verbal fight with Goneril to get into it pretty good. And the only reason why things don't go maybe like escalate there is because this invasion is coming. So on the one side, Albany is really mad at Goneril and Regan, and but on the other side, his country's being invaded. So priorities, right? But what we're going to see is the Duke of Cornwall is going to die. And that means Regan is single. But Goneril's already been hitting on Edmund. And Edmund ends up right in the middle of both of these women, the two queens of England. Both want him, and he's very aware of the fact that he's in a very good position, and he's plotting on using this, on capitalizing on it. He says, who do I choose? One or both or neither? I can't enjoy one if the other one still lives. So he's, when you analyze what he says, it sounds like he's going to maybe play one against the other in order to, bring his estate up even higher. But what's going to happen now is there's a bit of a divide between Goneril and Regan over Edmund. All right. So eventually, what we're going to see is that, I'm not going to say who it is, but these sisters are going to conspire against each other. We're going to see Goneril sends a note to Edmund. Regan intercepts it. She tries to buy off Oswald, who's Goneril's faithful servant, and then she also does this weird thing. She wants Gloucester to be killed, and she says that she'll pay Oswald really well if he kills Gloucester. So Gloucester, after he's blinded, is sent out of the castle, and he's wandering around. An old man is helping him around, and eventually he runs into Edgar, who's still disguised as Poor Tom the Beggar, and he asks Poor Tom to take him to the cliffs of Dover, which are huge chalky cliffs that overlook the English Channel. And it's pretty clear, he wants Poor Tom to take him there right up to the top so that he can jump off and kill himself. And Edgar, of course, pretends that he's playing along. He pretends like he's going to take him there, but what he actually does is he orchestrates this whole thing where he pretends to take Gloucester up and have Gloucester throw himself off the cliff, but he's actually just standing, like, I don't know, on pretty much level ground somewhere, and he jumps off and, in the adrenaline rush, I guess, falls down and doesn't realize that he's been tricked. And then Edgar takes on this other persona, and he, with another accent and everything, says that he just saw Gloucester jump off of the cliff, but then angels carry him down to the bottom. God saved him, and the person who was leading him was some sort of like demon or something. So now it's almost as if, like, you know, you're supposed to be alive, you know, but Gloucester still kind of wants to die. And that's when Oswald wanders into the scene, and Oswald sees him, and he's like, "I'm going to kill you." And Edgar defends him, and Edgar kills Oswald. And remember that I said that Oswald was carrying letters from Goneril, and the letters that he was carrying talk about the conspiracy that involves Edmund. So when Edgar kills Oswald, he gets a hold of these letters, he reads the contents, and he figures out what's going on. And so we have the beginnings of the revenge that's going to happen. So, where's Lear in all of this? Cordelia is back in England now, and she's looking for her father. That's the whole reason why she came. And she's gone out to look for him, and while sending out soldiers to find him. And eventually they do find Lear. And when they find him, he's like in this no man's land between being crazy and being sane. And but he's ashamed. He can hardly even look at Cordelia in the eye. So we know that there's some kind of semblance of sanity there. Anyways, Cordelia is quick to forgive her father and everything, and it looks like we've got a happy reunion that's going to happen here. But remember, they're in the middle of a war. So Cornwall is dead. Edmund is in charge of his troops now, and he and Albany fight against the French, and they defeat them. And when they defeat them, they capture Cordelia and Lear. And what should happen, because they're noble people, is they should be captured and held as captive until a ransom is paid, and then they're allowed to return to their home. But actually, Edmund wants them both out of the picture, so he gets one of the captains to promise that he will execute Cordelia and Lear. And so then just mayhem happens. The last scene of this play is unreal. It's such a good scene. I'm not going to tell you the details of what happens. I mean, if you've already seen the play, you already watched it, you know what happens. But anyways, one of the activities today is just to read it for yourself, because it is one of the greatest scenes in all of Shakespeare for what happens. So today, you're going to be doing an activity similar to yesterday. You're going to be studying the second part of this play. And then the media-related skill we're going to look at is video editing. And I've put together, I think, a pretty good lesson. For those of you who already know how to edit video, you probably just skip right to the activity. For those of you who don't know, this is going to be, I think, a really valuable skill for you to learn, because there's so much that you can do with video editing. There's so many projects you'd be able to put together going ahead to university that you wouldn't be able to do if you didn't have this skill. So the second part of the lesson, or the second lesson, is going to involve learning about video editing and then shooting some video and editing it. And then the third part is going to be more independent reading. So that's what's on the slate today. And other than that, Daniel, any parting words for the class you'd like to say?
Good luck.
All right.